Have you tried this chat? This chat, open AI chat.
No.
It's really interesting. So, we might use this for like creating bios.
Can you ask it to redo our website?
Well, yes. So, get this. So I was thinking, what could we use this for right away? And I was thinking, like, the hardest thing to do for me is, I get the stuff and then I go, shit, what bio do I write? And I'm not a writer. So I would usually take, maybe what's on Wikipedia or their website or their EPK. That's an electronic press kit for you young folk. And I would just use that. But I said, let me test this. And then I said, okay, what can I... So I typed in, what is Sass Jordan's bio? And so for Sass Jordan is a Canadian rock singer, songwriter, and actress. Born on January 23rd, 1962, she rose to fame in the late 1980s and early 1990s with her powerful and soulful voice, becoming one of the most prominent female rock singers of her generation. And there's two other paragraphs that they gave me. Who was Brad Merritt from 5440? They gave me like 6 lines. Decent. Brad Merritt is a bass guitarist for the Canadian rock band 5440. The band was formed in 1981 and has since released several albums and become one of the most popular rock bands in Canada. Merritt joined the band in 2000 and has been a member since. That's incorrect.
Have you asked it who is Kareem Kanji?
Who is Kareem Kanji? I couldn't find any significant information on a person named Kareem Kanji. It's possible that this person may not be well known or that the name is misspelled. Okay, hold on. Can you provide more context or details? Hold on, watch. Who is Kareem Kanji from... Let me see. See what information it reads. They're just making shit up now. So, I said, who is Kareem Kanji from Active International? Kareem Kanji is a businessman and the founder and CEO of Active International.
Oh, look at you. You're moving up fast. You just got your new title and now you're CEO.
Hold on, who is Greg Tilston? Greg Tilston is a Canadian singer-songwriter and guitarist. He is best known for his work as a solo artist, performing a blend of roots, blues, and country music. Tilston was born in 1965 in St. John, New Brunswick, and grew up in a musical family, learning to play guitar and sing at a young age. He has released several albums over the years, including Solo Flight and No More Goodbyes, and has been recognized for his songwriting and performance skills. Throughout his career, Tilston has toured extensively across Canada and Europe, performing at festivals, clubs, and theaters. He has collaborated with many musicians and has been praised for his ability to blend different musical styles into a unique and powerful sound. Tilston continues to perform and record music and is considered one of the most talented and influential musicians in Canada. Who is this person and why have we not heard about it? Interesting.
What? This doesn't make any sense.
Like I said, just reading that Brad Merritt one, it was like, oh, this is wrong.
Have you found anything online about Greg Tilston, No More Goodbyes?
Let me see. Greg Tilston, musician, No More Goodbyes. No, nothing.
Like,
what the heck? Did they just make shit up here?
So how much are you going to use this program to...
I guess not.
Hi, the following podcast is brought to you by Radical Road Brewery, the best craft beer in the heart of Leslieville. Find him at 1177 Queen Street East. That's Radical Road Brewery.
Hey, I'm Story with 2 R's, and this is Welcome to the Music.
Welcome, Story. It's so great to have you on a second time.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here.
And I will tell you, one of the best nuggets I've ever had during this entire podcast was discovering the Canadian Idol bit. And I don't have something like that to throw at you today. So I'm just telling you, you got it off easy today.
Thanks. I'm glad my past isn't going to haunt me.
Greg has been living off of that one question.
100%.
Like forever.
100%.
Like he's like the number one research guy ever of all time.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
I have to ask you this. Greg and I were just testing out this. You've heard of this chat, this open AI chat, this thing that you ask it questions, you ask it to do something. Like if you ask it to write a song, it'll write a song for you. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
Have you checked it out? No?
No.
I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Anyways, yeah.
We were just playing around, and he asked like Sass Jordan, could we pull a bio of Sass, for example, who was on our show previously, and he looked up who Cream Kanji is, and there was nothing. And I'm not saying that to make fun of him. I'm not saying nothing. I'm just like, there was nothing. And then he asked who is Greg Tilston, and it went on about this musician out of New Brunswick. And I was thinking, as he's talking about this, there is the folk singer-songwriter who's a distant cousin, Steve Tilston, out of the UK. And I honestly, I was like, okay, it must be talking about Steve. But as he's going on, it's this whole thing, and it's naming the songs that he's most famous for, and he's one of the most influential Canadian musicians.
It made shit up.
And there's nothing. There's literally nothing.
One of the most influential singer-songwriters in Canada. Like, what? How come we haven't heard of this person? We start Googling this person.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Anyways.
Gotta love AI.
That's what we were doing just before you came on. Story, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. You've accumulated thousands, hundreds of thousands of air miles in 2022. You've been traveling a lot. You just got back from touring Western Canada. How was that?
It was awesome. I got to co-headline with Tanika Charles, and she's fabulous, and her band is fabulous. And actually, her band, coincidentally, has played on the new album that I'm finishing right now. So, her bassist and her drummer and guitarist, they all had played on it. So it was very interesting. It was nice. It was nice being on tour. It felt like we'd all known each other for a very long time.
Cool. And this new album, is this chapter 2?
Yeah, the prequel.
The prequel.
Yes. No, it's not called the prequel, but yeah, it's the prequel.
But it is a prequel?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, we're going to talk about that. But tell me, how was it? Where did you visit in Western Canada? What cities, what towns did you play in?
We were on the island of Vancouver, so we did 2 stops there in Sydney and then Courtenay, and then we did one in Burnaby, which is just outside of Vancouver, and then we went to Edmonton, and then Tanika and I split up, and she went to Calgary, and I went to Saskatoon.
Okay, and how was it playing in these? I don't know. I don't want to say small towns. Because some of them are not small, some of them are small, but how was it playing Western Canada? You've done Montreal, you've done Toronto. How was it playing in a different part of Canada?
I mean, it was great. I love BC. I think it's just so beautiful. My first time going there was actually to record and produce this next album. And so I'd never been there before, and I've spent quite a bit of time there now. And so I have an affinity to it. So, I mean, obviously the weather's better. And so the people tend to be warmer. They want to hug you more and stuff, which I love. I love hugging. But, you know, the music resonates wherever I go. And so it's really awesome to see that, like, even outside of a big city, it can still resonate. And so it was lovely. I wouldn't say that it was received any differently, the shows. And I got to enjoy the landscape quite a bit.
Nice. Audiences are the same, or do you find there's different types of audiences? Western Canada, big cities in Canada. I don't know if you had a chance to play any live shows in the UK or anywhere else.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
You know, I would say in comparison to the UK, like the UK is a bit more reserved on their responses, I find. You know, people will love it and I'll see their expressions and they're very enthused, but they'll just kind of like nod at you and smile and be like, that was great, and just like kind of walk away because they're kind of shy or something. I'm not really sure. But you know, during this tour, it was lovely because people they came up, some people shared some really important disclosures and some really like heavy things about their life, and they were telling me that the music was very healing, and most of them had actually never heard of me before, and so it was their first time really listening to the music. So that was really exciting to see such a transformation in people so quickly, and it was just great. Like I feel like North Americans are a bit more forthright about their feelings about things than the UK.
That's interesting. That's yeah. Anyway, sorry, I have a conversation I had today about family dynamics and my family, proper British, the feelings shared and not. Anyway, sorry, I'm just having a whole moment to discuss that earlier today. One of the things I wanted to ask you about touring, and you know, we've talked to a number of musicians as people are and artists starting to get back into it again. Up till now, it's been how you doing during COVID, and now we're getting on the other side of the pandemic, knock on wood. And like some people are saying that even though we're getting back to live music, it's still not the same as before. How did you find that experience while being on tour?
Well, I didn't really get to tour properly this album, and so I don't really know what it was like before. I knew what it was like to go to events before, and that, yes, it does feel different. People are still afraid to go out. I did notice quite a few people still wearing their masks and distancing and stuff like that, so it's definitely harder in that regard. But I think that people have been craving that connection with people, and so doing live music, even if it doesn't, you know, feel exactly the same for the performer, it's very necessary. It needs to happen, and people will warm up and they'll start coming out more and more. We just need to give everybody some time, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Now you didn't tour the album, but you got recognized for the album STORRY. You nominated for a Juno Award. How was that? I think you were nominated alongside, was it Celine Dion? I can't remember now.
Yeah, Celine and Alanis Morissette, which is crazy. You know, childhood idols. So it was huge. Yeah. It was really a bittersweet moment for me, actually. It was amazing because I absolutely like grew up like learning basically how to sing from Celine Dion. And then, you know, to be nominated alongside these legends was just so, I was so honored. But it was bittersweet in the sense that, like, you know, I'd never really toured it. It wasn't I didn't have a lot of support. I've been doing everything on my own in terms of even just management and distribution and everything. And so to kind of feel like, these people have these huge teams with millions of dollars, and I'm still like poor in my room, and like it's confusing. So I kind of put my head down and was like, okay, what does this mean? This validates me in some way. This validates that, even though the numbers and all that aren't what they need to be to get me recognized in terms of the industry, there is still something really, the Junos, which is the industry, has said that it's good enough to be there. So that gave me some confidence to go, okay, well, I need to do something more with this. I think the pandemic really like stifled this release. And so that's why I made a deluxe version of the album, because I thought, well, it really needs to be seen and heard. And so I'm going to make it kind of refresh it and put it out again so that I can actually tour it this time around.
And so was this Western tour, was that part of getting out and introducing people to you, the album, the songs, and the extra songs that you put on it?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And what's next in terms of this particular album? Because you've got a second one on its way. So what other plans do you have for this one?
Well, I'll be probably releasing the first single of the next record in the springtime. And as that kind of trickles out, I'll still be performing this album and the deluxe version of it across Canada and the UK and maybe even the States for the rest of the year, probably. That's I think just people need to see the live performance and get that experience, because it's really very different from the album, just digitally. Like, it's really an experience to be had. And so I want to give that to more people, and it seems to be resonating, as I've said, and transforming people and healing people. And so I want to just keep doing as much of that as I can.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you'd be able to share, you talked about, being nominated was a bittersweet moment in terms of, that this was a, DIY project essentially. And, you're going up against people that have machines and have teams behind them. I'm really curious, like, you're at the Junos and people might be asking, who is STORRY? Like, who is this person? And people are, I guess in the industry, checking out your music and being introduced to it. Like, do you start, putting your shoes on and start hustling and try, like, are you interested in labels? Are you interested in the machine of Canadian music? Or, like, I'm really curious, are people were knocking on your door? Are you knocking on people's doors? Like, what was that about, if you're able to share?
Well, I think I was frustrated because people were not knocking on my door, and it was now my second nomination. And I said, well, what are you guys doing? Are you sleeping? Like, I don't understand.
I feel like swearing right now.
So I was very upset in that sense. And that's why I kind of just put my head down and I started writing a bunch of grants. And I was like, okay, we're in a lockdown. Like, that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to get grants, because if I can't get people to, believe in me, after these two Juno nominations, then I don't really know what to do. I'm going to need to hire people. So I need money. So I put my head down, I got a bunch of grants, and now actually things are going quite well. Like, I feel like I'm slowly starting to get a team together, and I'm not like opposed to anything. I'm not opposed to labels. I'm not opposed to the machine. I'm not opposed to all these things. I just want to have artistic integrity and ownership of what I'm doing. So if I'm going to do anything with a bigger entity, I want to be a partner and not be owned, essentially. Like, that's very important for me, because I have a very clear vision and I've done all of this stuff on my own. So, I'm not really interested in somebody coming in and telling me how to do everything. Like, I want somebody who's going to come in and love everything that I'm doing and just want to give it a bigger platform, essentially.
Wow.
So if that happens, great. But if not, I'm building a business, a new business model for myself that can work outside of that machine.
Yeah.
And as you're building that, like, how is it changing for you as you're bringing on other people? You know what I mean? Like you've really done a lot of it. And when we got together last time, it was a lot just you, and you mentioned you're starting to be able to bring on other people to support. Like how has that changed, and what are you able to hand off?
Well, I'm able to hand off a lot of the admin, like 90% of my life was admin, and I wasn't able to spend as much time in the studio or performing or doing those things because I was doing all of the emails, all of the meetings. There wasn't a buffer between me and like somebody else who I would be, signing a contract with potentially. And that's important. Like it's not, I think, when you're working directly with these kind of like businessy minded people, they, I think, tend to exploit artists a little bit because they think that, okay, well, this person really wants this, so we're gonna like, turn the charm up or whatever, and kind of make you feel bad if you ask for anything more. But like having that buffer of like a manager or something that's gonna stand there and be like, no, actually, like we really need this, and this is her worth, and we're not settling for anything less than this, is a really important thing. And so not having that for so many years was quite difficult. And so I'm very happy now to have found a manager that, really believes in me and believes in my worth, and is going to ask for that and demand that. And if the other person is not willing to give us that, then we move on. It's like, well, okay, then you don't believe in this, and that's fine, and we'll just find somebody else to work with. There's many fish in the sea. But it's really having that mindset of like of abundance and not scarcity, because there's a lot of this idea that there's only so many spaces, and there's only and there's so much competition, and there's so much noise, and you just have to continuously tell yourself like, no, I'm me. There's only one of me. Nobody can do what I do. And so as long as I remember that, then I never have to compare myself or compete, quote unquote. I just have to continue being my authentic self and filling that part of the market that is not being filled because no one else can be me. So, but yeah, it's very nice now to have more space to do more creative things. I definitely still have my hands in a lot of things that I still don't really want to do, like, social media, for instance. I'm not really like a social media person. Like I can't wait to have somebody take care of that side of things for me. But
do you need a TikTok person? Because Greg is
No.
Greg
I
is
was
awesome.
going. No. I was
TikTok.
going to say, if you want a TikTok or a Snap person, Kareem's the guy that you need to bring on board. He is the guy.
You should. Greg has got some juice. I'm telling you. I have to say this story. Your email campaign. I'm guessing that you set that up a couple of years ago or maybe longer. That is phenomenal.
Thank you.
Every time I get an email, it's like it almost feels like, oh, she sent it just to me. The way it just is awesome. And you are so right. Like whoever's listening to this, if you haven't seen Story perform live, you're only getting a piece of her, because I had a chance, Story. I think it was this past summer where you played, I think, the Toronto Jazz Fest. Was it the Toronto Jazz Fest that you played?
Yeah, I remember seeing you there.
And you did opera at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that just floored me. Because you're up there, you've got, there's a couple of guitarists, I think, you've got a drummer, there's someone on keys, and so we're expecting, okay, and then you just start and it's opera. It's like, what? And if people don't know your story, they're like, holy shit,
yeah.
This person's got some pipes, and that, like, just phenomenal. And a great performance. That was like outstanding. But then you played Montreal. Tell us about the Montreal Jazz Fest?
Well, that was so much fun. It was the biggest stage and the biggest crowd I'd ever played for. That space fills maybe about 15,000 people. So maybe there was just a little under that. And I was playing just before Corinne Bailey Rae, who was the headliner that night. And it was a beautiful day, July 1st. Like, people are just out and they're enjoying this beautiful weather. And it was just phenomenal. And honestly, like, I'd thought about, okay, maybe I need to like pare down my story because, it's a festival setting. People are in and out. They're not really staying for the whole show and trying to like take in the story. But I was like, no, I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be myself and I'm going to just do what I do and we'll see if they like it or not. And I was very pleased to see that like people really resonated with the show. Like, people stayed for the entirety of the show. Even the tech crew told me after that they had like goosebumps and they were like, we've played so many festivals and we've never heard an audience be so attentive. Like, they were so quiet when you came on that stage. And so it was really amazing. Like, I remember getting off stage and like being in tears of like, because it was just such a great moment in my career.
That is awesome. That is really, really good. I was wondering about that. It's one thing to play a big crowd, but it's another thing to, I guess, for the audience to connect with your music and then for you to sort of, feed off of that as well. Yeah.
And then after the show, like, I was 2 hours, I was signing people's CDs and vinyls. And
wow.
I heard back from the people who, run the Montreal Jazz Fest, and apparently I sold the second highest in merch in the entire festival. And I definitely only had like maybe 80 to 100 people who actually knew who I was in that crowd. So it was amazing that was the case,
Oh, that's fantastic. So I guess you're going back again this year.
I mean, inshallah, like, I hope.
Why not? It's interesting you say that. My cousin and I were in northern Pakistan many, many years ago, and we would say inshallah as a polite way of saying no. But you definitely want to go. It was interesting. Every time he says that to me, he lives in the UK now. Every time he says that to me, I say, so you're saying no, right? Like, if I ask you a question.
That's so funny. It's true. It sometimes is used that way, but no, when I use it, I actually mean like, may the universe or God or whatever you call this, universal consciousness. I hope that it happens. That's how I use it.
Oh, absolutely. That's for sure. You talked about selling vinyl and CDs. With the deluxe edition of the Come Up and with Chapter 2 Run coming out,
mm-hmm.
Is that still something you want to do? Provide vinyl, provide CDs, provide other channels outside of digital that people can find your music and consume it?
Definitely. I think the deluxe will just be digital for now. But the next album, I plan to have vinyl and CD available. There's something about it that just listening to a record on vinyl is just different, and touching the pages of the booklet and reading the lyrics and all of that. I don't know. I guess I'm old school. Like, I like that experience.
I think there's some, you talk about, I like it because I could read about people, even your thank yous, which is like all of this is like thank yous to people, interesting just to read, who are the people that helped you along the way. But I wanted to ask you this because you say you probably get asked about this or maybe not. But you said something at the end, and it was almost like an FU to people.
Yeah, it was.
But the Junos never read it because Do you mind if I read this? Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
To every label, A&R, manager, publisher, person with clout, a word of caution. Numbers can and do lie. Call me if you have any questions. So here's my question, Story. Like, what did that mean for you? Like, why did you put that in there?
One, because nobody really was like helping me. Like I applied so many times for funding. I applied so many times for like, assistance. I networked my ass off and I wasn't really getting anywhere and I was frustrated. And so I had to create that album in 6 days, 3 days to produce it.
Whoa.
And 3 days to record all of the vocals for 11 songs. I nearly lost my voice after those 3 days, and I'd never produced a record before. So to produce 11 songs in 3 days, like you can imagine, it didn't come out exactly as I'd hoped, but that's what the resources I had. And so that's what I mean by it, like me being validated, even though it wasn't what I considered to be my best work because I didn't have many resources for it to be nominated was such a huge thing. But I'm still experiencing this exhaustion of like numbers and this idea that like you need to have Spotify numbers and you need to have social media following for you to be a valuable artist, and it's just wrong. First of all, if you're signed to a label, one of my friends was telling me that their artist was signed to this Canadian label, and so they were promised with each release that they would be on 3 playlists. I'm not promised to be on those playlists when I'm an independent artist, and in fact, I've been on a playlist once. Like an editorial playlist one time.
Wow.
And it was just for like a couple of weeks. So if you look at my numbers compared to another person who now has released something and it has all of these streams because they've been put on 3 editorial playlists by the label, then my numbers are going to look so much less than that person. But does that mean people are enjoying that music more? Not necessarily. I have a friend who has 250,000 monthly listeners. And he said to me, he can't fill a room in Toronto the way that I can because he can't access those fans. They're passive listeners who are just liking this song on a playlist because it's chill and they can vibe out to it while they're working out or while they're hanging out with friends, but they're not active fans who actually want to go and spend money. And because Spotify is a black hole in terms of data, they can't access those people to turn them into fans in terms of marketing. So what does that mean, right? What do these numbers mean on Spotify? And especially if people can buy streams as well, or they can buy numbers, then what does that mean as well? So then we have to look more at, okay, so then they'll go, okay, well, what about the social media? Similar to social media, if you started in social media early, you probably have more numbers than somebody who started later because the algorithms also changed drastically. Similar to SoundCloud. My friend was saying that he had a SoundCloud and before SoundCloud had a great community. And so he got a bunch of numbers. And because he started on Spotify sooner than everybody else, his numbers are a lot better because it was easier for him to get on editorial playlists. And those editorial playlists previously, like even 5 years ago, garnered a lot more numbers than they do now because there's more playlists now and there's more saturation in the market. So all that to say is that like it doesn't really mean quality. It doesn't really mean engagement of the music. It doesn't really mean that people can put butts in seats at shows. It really means very little. And I think the problem is that people want a very quick snapshot of what something is because one, yes, there is a lot of music coming out and people don't want to have to sift through a ton of crap to like get to something good. So it's kind of like an endorsement. So if you don't have somebody telling you that this person is good, then you can look at their numbers and hope that that equals good. But I also think it's because people are lazy and they don't want to do the work. It's like, no, go to somebody's show. That will tell you. Just go to the show. Get your butt off from in front of the TV and go to the show and you'll know. Then you can decide on your own. Don't look at this other shit. That doesn't matter, you know. That's what I think.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why. So, not sure where you stand on all this, but okay. So how do you, or your advice to other up and coming artists, how do you break through that?
Well, I think you don't pander to what the labels are pandering to. Like, I know of an artist, for instance, who's an indie artist, and she has 2,000 monthly listeners, but she sold 100,000 CDs through her email list because she creates a fan base there because she has direct access to her fans there, and she can make much more money. Doesn't show that she's making all of that on Spotify because nobody is really, not as many people are listening on there as they are on her vinyls and, you know, so, or CDs or whatever she's selling. So I think that it's really, if you want to be an indie artist, I think you just have to think of creative ways to like access your fans directly and not have to necessarily be on Spotify all the time, like, and worry about those numbers. Like if you blow up and an editorial playlist picks you up and whatever, great, that's awesome. That will help you. But if it doesn't, that you're not relying on it solely. Like it shouldn't be your business model. That's not where you're going to make money. You know, you're not making money from your streams. You make pennies. Even if you're making millions of streams, it's still not a ton of money. You need to have another source of income. So whether it's your email list and you're selling merchandise, or you're selling services, or you're promoting your shows, or all of the above, you know, I was speaking to another artist and they were like, yeah, we have like a jewelry thing as well. That's like a part of our merch, but it's not necessarily part of the albums. It's just on our website as well, or on tour with us. And then sometimes people will pick a piece of jewelry, or, you know, just having creative ways to kind of realize that your music is really more of a commercial now for all the other things that's going to actually fund your livelihood and allow you to make your next album. And so that's what I've kind of just been focusing more on it. And I'm not trying to, you know, pander to such big platforms. And who knows, like maybe like SoundCloud, Spotify is in 10 years not going to be relevant anymore, and it's going to be another platform. So that's another issue. It's like you can build so much importance, but like Facebook, like no one's on Facebook anymore. You built your fan base there, and now they have all the information of those people, but you don't have as much access to them as Facebook has to them. So.
It's fascinating because listening to, I mean, you're talking like a marketer and a merchandiser, which I think is what you're saying young and up and coming artists need to be thinking about, versus like, it reminds me of, and it reminds me, honestly, it reminds me of when I was a musician in the, you know, early 90s and late 80s, early 90s. And, you know, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have Spotify, we didn't have anything. And you were out hustling. You were, you know, we were out in Durham, so out in Whitby. And so we were selling beer buses at Durham College, and we'd bring in 2 buses to Lee's Palace on a Friday night. And Craig loved us because we brought in a captive audience that stayed there the whole time. And that's what it was about, right? It's about the marketing and the merchandising. It's, you know, it's hustle. And so I guess, you're right. If you don't have the machine behind you to get the Spotify listens, and to your point of your friend, you know, you still have to hustle. You still have to hustle. Sorry, I went on a rant there. But
no, it's exactly that. And I think the word hustle is probably taken a bit better by the arts community than the idea of marketing. Like you use the word marketing with somebody who's an artist and they just cringe. And even when I hear it, I'm like cringing a little too. But I mean, marketing doesn't have to be disingenuous. Like it's still, it's just a way for you to get people to hear the message that they need to hear. You know, it's not selling them something that they don't need. It's trying to get them to hopefully listen to something that they actually want to listen to and experience, and that will change them. Sometimes people don't know that that's what they need. You know, I'm almost 100% certain that a lot of the people who came to that tour that I was on had no idea what they were going to experience, and they left feeling, you know, changed from that and happy for that experience, that they were like, I'm so glad that I came out today, you know. But they wouldn't have known had, you know, there not been posters and emails and Instagram posts and all of that. So as much as I don't like doing it, I have to think of myself as a business. And so I encourage other independent artists, like, think of yourself as a business. Don't think of yourself just as an artist, because unfortunately that's not going to help you fund the rest of your art. And the more resources you have, the more art you can make.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Story, chapter 2 is coming out.
Yeah.
Run. Can you give us like a sneak peek? Can you tell us, you know, what we can expect?
Yes, ish. I put a group of producers together, myself and a few others, and so sonically it is quite different from chapter 3, but it is closer to the vision that I had, in terms of, like, if I had resources, I would have probably produced chapter 3 like this. But you know, everything in its due time. And so I found some really awesome people to work with, and you know, that will all be disclosed when it comes out. And but it was lovely. We went to Vancouver to record out there, and so I was out there for about a month and a half, and flew in a bunch of people over there, and it was such a different experience from the first time that I recorded. So I actually had enough days in the studio to not feel like I'm rushing. We had a harpist, we had a quartet, we had a French horn, we had drums, guitar, you know, like we had all of the things. And so it was really awesome to have people who do the best at what they do it, you know, and me not try to have to like figure it out on my own in some like cheaper version way, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, and basically conceptually the album is the prequel to chapter 3. So chapter 3 is, it really is more about the parallels between the music industry and the sex industry, whereas chapter 2 is more about my healing journey after being sex trafficked. And so it kind of starts out, the first song is kind of like a last supper. And so basically I'm saying to my trafficker, my abuser, like, I love you, you know, at this point I loved this person, but I need to leave. I have to leave. This is enough, you know? And so that the album takes you on this journey of healing, which, as we all know, is non-linear. And so it's up and down and all around. It's a roller coaster ride. So yeah, that's pretty much the concept, and you'll just have to wait to hear what it is. It's magical, I think. Like for me, it doesn't really fit in a genre.
Okay.
I don't think my first album did either, but it probably did a little bit more than this record. And so I kind of, when people ask me like, what does it sound like? What is it, you know, how do you compare it? I say it's kind of like, if you were to imagine like the musical theatrical components of like Queen, but instead of it being under the rock umbrella, it being under more of an R&B soul umbrella. And it's kind of a new genre, and kind of how Bjork kind of had her own genre, you know, that is just
Bjork.
Bjork. Yeah, like you can't really compare it to things. I feel like it's a similar thing.
And
so,
when
yeah.
can we expect the album?
Whew, you might have to wait. You may have to wait about a year from now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw. I think it was on your TikTok. It might have been your Instagram stories. Chin and Jetty, was he one of the producers? I saw him. I think. And how was it working with him?
It was good. It was good. He had a part to play in 2 of the records, songs on the record, and he's a very lovely human. So we had a nice time.
Awesome. That is so good. Yeah. Oh, could you hear my dog bark? I apologize for that.
You're being polite. You're being polite, Story. I messaged in the background. I go, is that Mateo?
I didn't hear anything.
He's like a tiny. Okay. It's like he fits in my pocket.
Yeah,
but he thinks he's a lion. Story. We're gonna sort of break the fourth wall here, if that's what they call it. You're gonna sing for us. Yeah. You Don't Know Me. Tell us about this song. It's on the Come Up. It's also on the deluxe edition of the Come Up. Mm-hmm. Tell us what this song is about.
It's basically about all the different sides of me. And people generally, we all even put ourselves in boxes, and it's kind of saying, no, you can't put me in a box. I'm all of these different things, and I won't be confined to a space, basically.
Awesome. Here is Story, You Don't Know Me.
I got a lot of drive. I got a lot of stakes in the backseat of my car. I got a lot of lines. Can play a lot of tricks in the backseat of the bar. And everybody say, hey, yeah, to me. Trying to catch my spark to light their cigar. Got a little smart, got a little hard, got a little sharp, got a lot of heart, yeah. Daddy say, buy back them sharks and he don't beg. You did them cards for them boys, for them boys, for them boys, yeah. If they wanna play with you, tell these motherfuckers for the last time, baby, 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 baby. I'm shaking a lot of hands and that's every single night. I just put on a smile. Lot of better dishes, ain't nobody putting up a fight, and everybody say, hey, yeah, to me. Cause they all want a piece of that pretty round pie. Finger licking good. I got a lot of class and little hood, but I'm largely misunderstood. Daddy say, buy back them sharks. You deal them cards in. All these boys walk around like they want your hand, but they wanna get it in. If they wanna play with you, take these motherfuckers for the last time, baby, 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 baby. You don't know me,
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that
Thank
story.
you.
Really appreciate
you.
it. What's up with the UK? You go there quite often. Is that just another home for you? Is there inspiration that you get from there? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I have a Greek passport, and I decided to move there before Brexit didn't allow European citizens to go there. And since it was during the pandemic, I thought, okay, well, nothing's really happening here, so I might as well like go and try a new market and see what the art scene is like there. And I really like it. So now I split my time between Canada and the UK.
Okay. Awesome. So you're enjoying it, I'm assuming, if you're going back and forth.
I am. I have like a group of friends there now too. So I have like my little community in Toronto, and then I have a little community now that I've built in Vancouver, and I have a community in London, and so it's nice. I bounce between them.
Yeah.
What are you finding is the difference between the scenes? Like what are you getting from the UK that you're not getting from here? But you know what I mean? Like
it's just different. I mean,
Yeah.
the genres of music are different. The approach is different. It's just different. I wouldn't necessarily say one is better than the other. And I think because I still love all of these places and all of the people I've met in all of these places, and that's why I'm still moving around. I haven't really found a place that I was like, this is my home. Like, I feel like I'm still quite nomadic.
All right. They just sounded like a Paul McCartney song, a Beatles song. All these places, isn't their song? Anyways, I can't. I do not have.
You're not going to break out a guitar, are you?
No, it's too high. I'm not gonna pick that up. Story, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
for joining us today. Greg, I think you've got a couple. I always interrupt when Greg wants to ask a question.
Yeah, no. One of the things that I'd really like to know is, what are you listening to lately that other people should be checking out? I always like to ask our guests that.
That is a hard question. I'm very bad with names, and I've been listening to a lot of just like indie artists that people have been kind of recommending. But I've been so busy that I haven't really gotten to take in things more than once to remember the people's names and such. In terms of like a more famous person, I really enjoyed FKA Twig's last album. That was a huge inspiration sonically for me. Yeah. If I think of anything else in the next 30 seconds, I'll let you know.
Or if you think of anything afterwards, we can add it into the quote unquote liner notes.
Usually people are going on their phone. What did I just listen to just now? And
yeah.
But no, Story, thank you so much. If people want to buy the deluxe edition of Chapter 3, The Come Up, if people want to find out more about you, where can they go?
So people can still buy the original version of the album on my website. I probably should have an option for people to just be able to buy it and download it on my website, the deluxe version, I mean. But there, I don't currently know. Does like iTunes still sell albums?
I don't know. Greg, you're an Apple person.
I don't know, because I just use Apple Music now. If I think about it, I haven't I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they got rid of a lot of these options where people can buy the music on the platforms. So I would just say like the best way to support the music is, yes, great, stream it, send it to your friends and family if you enjoy it. But check out the website. I'll be putting up, any tickets for shows. There's merch.